Okay, this is 252 Pop Fiction, where you'll find all the news and reviews in pop culture that's right to type. Today's top story.
There's a new female-led Star Wars series in the works on Disney+. Russian Doll co-creator Leslie Headland tapped to helm the production. Now, is it female-led, as in she's doing all the work, and the main character is going to be female as well, or is that not clear?
I believe it's like female-centric, where the showrunner, directors, writers, leads are going to be predominantly female-led.
That's cool.
Almost like Jessica Jones Season 2, where all the directors of every episode was female, the writers were female, and of course Jessica Jones. So I think that's where they're leading with this one. I actually saw Russian Doll, liked it a lot. I believe that was one of those Ralphie D recommends. Ralphie D recommended, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go check this one out, and I enjoyed it very much. So I mean, I like her work. So, and I know it's still happening around, or from what I read, it's still happening around the events of like the Star Wars that we're used to, but it's like way off on another side. So it's not like you're going to run into any of your Star Wars. It's not like Chewbacca's going to end up in a scene or something like that.
Right, but they're not making it part of that new thing, though. It's still going to be set in the era we're familiar with, so that's cool.
Yeah. And I just want to say, it's been really hard to find like just fun-filled entertainment news over these last couple of weeks. It's been a little rough. So this next story here deals with stay-at-home protesters. Georgia is reopening salons, gyms, and bowling alleys, and the mayor of Las Vegas wants to now reopen the Strip. Not even after I put this, Florida is actually opening up beaches and stuff like that. And it's almost like people are not really, I understand the whole, you get stir crazy and you want to go out, you know what I'm saying? You want to do things, but there's also, I just want to say for me personally, when you get more, it's more real and it's more effective when you have people in your own family that tested positive. My father and stepmother, both tested positive for COVID-19, and it's been a really rough month. Last 6 weeks at the Gaddy house. They're in New York. I can only communicate with them over the phone. My sister was there in the trenches taking care of them both, and at one point she said she was checking on them, and I don't want to get into it, but she thought like. There's been times where she thought that they were just staring off and she thought that was, so it's when it affects you personally. And I even had a moment where it took me a while, but I had to think like, when was I gonna, cause I wanted to tell the kids like when I knew everything was getting better and I don't want to, they both are fine now. It was a long and my dad's still, he's like 85, 90%. My mom's at 100, cause he's a lifelong asthmatic. It took him a lot longer to get on the other side of things, but not only them, but my stepmom, her sister, and her sister's husband also got it. Not a 100% happy ending on that side. So when you see all these people like they're protesting and it's like, you had 6 weeks and how come and all this and not to mention the people like, please, I know our fans are smart enough and they will not take household products and consume them. But it's just so much craziness and stuff. And I get it. You want to be out, you want to go to the movies, you want to go see people and do life. But I mean, at a certain point, like take it easy.
You got to have the common sense. I say DDP said, I'm not opening my gyms in Atlanta because he said, I'm 60 something and I don't need this. It's common sense. What is it? Yeah. What's more important to you is, people do need to get paid and all that, but if you're dead, you cannot collect the check at all. So,
And that's the thing. And in no way, shape, or form am I preaching any type of fear, anything. You gotta live life. You gotta live life, but be smart about it. Like, let's not make a mad dash to all go to the beach, people.
Yeah.
Like, You know what I'm saying? Or I know I follow a lot of people on Instagram, and I notice a lot of posts are just old things that they used to do. Hey, lady, let's see what you look like right now. I know you ain't had your hair done or your nails done or anything in a while. So I know it's rough. It's rough for all of us.
Didn't they bust this 200 people at a sideshow there too somewhere? Like that's an important thing you got to do. Go out and watch cars.
Yeah, that made no sense. That made no sense. I think someone got hurt too.
Oh, of course.
I think a car whipped around and hit someone. I didn't want to bring it because, again, that's sad news. Didn't want to really talk about that. But yeah, it's, you're trying to go out and do something, but why? Relax.
They were mad here because they shut down the garden centers of the stores for a couple of weeks. And lo and behold, after everybody complained and protested about that, we had 3 days of frozen everything. It was like, snowing here. I said, well, aren't you guys glad you didn't plant your plants in April when you're not supposed to anyway?
Yeah.
Like you're trying to rush things a little too much because you're ahead of the actual normal schedule at this point. Back it up. Slow down.
There's one thing that I want to say, and I'm just going to cap it off with this, and I'll let you continue to the next story. But it's funny, no matter how long you go to school or if you got that 6-figure job, in a crisis like this, it's funny what turns out to be essential jobs.
Oh yeah.
Because, store clerks still working, garbage man still working. There's certain jobs that are essential. Thank God people in times of crisis need their alcohol, because this guy right here, still working. Apparently that's essential.
Did they have you guys
making
cans of water or anything, or just straight up still doing the usual?
Not at our plant, but we have plants that are making hand sanitizers, as well as we have our disaster relief canned water.
Cool.
That we do can.
So that's definitely essential.
Yeah. Fairfield's not doing it. We're still, Bud Light,
It's very essential, especially in the southern states.
Yeah. It's very essential, apparently. But we did take a hit with our keg line because of the restaurants and bars not being open.
Sure.
We got I don't know if I just... There may or may not be a lot of kegs sitting in our cold room getting overaged because they got nowhere to go.
Finally aged, yes. There were restaurants here that gave the okay to sell takeout cocktails like in paper cups. Like what? Wow, that's a new thing. All the things they're complaining about, like rights being taken away. I'm like, look, they're selling you booze in paper takeout cups at the drive-through. Nothing could go wrong.
That sounds like a bad Detroit, man. Detroit.
But in lighter news, Eddie Murphy is back doing stand-up on May 9th at a charity event along with Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, Tiffany Haddish, Howie Mandel, Billy Crystal, Kevin Hart, Mark Maron, Marlon Wayans, Margaret Cho, Tim Meadows, John Lovitz, and just about everybody else you can possibly think of who used to be on SNL apparently, have joined the star-studded lineup of the Feeding America Comedy Festival. That's a streaming thing, right? Nobody has to actually go and sit in a packed audience.
Correct. As far as my understanding, yes, it is. They're just doing this event, and it's funny because upon your suggestion, I watched the Weekend Update at SNL, and they did the piped in audience. They had a few people, I guess, zoomed in.
Yeah.
That they were doing it live and you can hear them, and it kind of worked. So I'm actually kind of interested to see how they're going to do this, because but obviously there's a lot of these guys, Sandler, Mark Maron, Kevin Hart. I've seen them just do their little like Instagram feeds and stuff or social media, and they're funny,
Right.
So
if you're really funny, all you need is a camera and a mic.
If you're really funny, you don't really need an audience. But it is a thing. So it's going to be interesting to do, and it's for a good cause. Feeding the American people.
And we're all going to tune in because Eddie Murphy hasn't been doing stand up now, in 30 years. So we want to see this.
or at least stand up weekend. Because I know he did say that he had to go to the small clubs. He had to start. He's like, you have to.
Yeah, he said he wants to tour again, so that would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I'd go.
And this next thing that I want to talk about, it's not really part of our normal like story setup, but I just wanted to say, Jim Lee, not only is he one of my favorite artists, he's one of my favorite people, doing the Lord's work. Jim Lee is doing what he calls the 60 for 60. He's doing 60 days, he's doing 60 sketches, a sketch per day. And what he's doing is he's throwing out on social media to the fans and he's saying, hey, what do you want me to draw? What do you want to sit and watch me draw? And he'll go ahead and go through, pick one, and he'll draw it. And he said in the beginning when he wanted to do it, normally he said he could bust out a little sketch, 15, 20, 30 minutes. But the way these auctions, the way the people have been bidding on these has been going so high, so he's been like challenging himself from one drawing to the next, putting more and more detail. So now he's up to 8-9 hours that he's spending on cramping in his hands. His fingers are going numb, but he's doing these drawings so people bid on him. He's about a quarter of a way through because he started this, so he has about 25 pieces. And if you look if you follow him on Instagram, you can see all the pieces that he's done, like the Batman That Laughs and Dead Man and a couple other characters that he actually even said that, it's good to do these characters because he hasn't really done them before. And so with that being said, some of his other artist friends kind of got on board too, like Art Adams and Walt Simonson and J. Scott Campbell and Frank Miller, and all these guys are like saying, all right, now they'll bid and they'll pick and I'll draw a character that whatever comes up, and then people could bid on that sketch and they get that original artwork, and the proceeds of with the auction, the proceeds are all going to this company, Bink. And what Bink is doing, and I can't really remember what Bink stands for, but basically they're taking the money, all the monies, and they're getting it to those small mom and pop comic book shop retailers that kind of took a hard hit from, apparently not getting new books in. And of course for the local comic, let's be honest, the local comic book shop was hanging on by the proverbial thread as it was. And this really took, I'm pretty sure, our local shop in Sassoon, I don't even know if he's going to be able to open back up. And I know, what is it, the one that JB likes to go to in Vacaville?
Boys of Summer?
Boys of Summer, yeah, with the apostrophe S, the Boys of Summer. But yeah, it's going to be kind of hard, and Jim is not just creative. Jim is also the CCO of DC and the publisher. So he actually has like a job to do, like a day job where he's in the board meetings and stuff. Of course, it's all via Zoom and stuff like that, but he has to do all of that stuff. And then he goes in and puts in like another full day of work to put out. And a lot of those pictures are really good and interesting. And there is kind of talk, I think, because he's a DC guy, he's trying to stay, even though he would love to do, because he said Art Adams did this Wolverine, and he said that he was like, I wonder if I can bid on the Wolverine one. let me bid on it. But he said mostly what they want to do with the DC guys, that after they've done and gave out all the prints, that they would take the thing, probably make a collection book. Right. That they would probably sell, for way less, because some of these pictures are going for like $9-10 grand a pop.
Oh yeah.
For a real collector, But he's doing 60 for 60, so he's like I said, he's like about 25 sketches in, and then with everyone else helping, it's going to be very interesting, and I just want to give props.
Jim Lee, by the way, not Stan's son.
No, not at all. Not at all. But this week's review Dave, Season 1, Episode 1. This FX half-hour comedy is based on the life of rapper and comedian Dave Bird, better known by his stage name, Little Dicky. It centers on Dave, who is convinced that he's one of the best rappers of all time, and now he only has to convince his closest friends for help. I actually watched, I think they had like 6 or 7 episodes out. I kind of mashed them. Very funny. Very funny. I want to say Kevin Hart is one of the producers of this, and this is a big up, but I feel like Dave, it's kind of up there with Atlanta. Atlanta has a different kind of funny. There's more of a smart, sleek funniness to it, but there's a character named Gator on Dave, and he's just so, every time he's on screen, he just steals the scene. And spoiler, there's a problem with Gator, but he's very funny. But it comes out later what his problem is, and that is the reason why he acts the way he does. But yeah, it's very Little Dicky, and I know his joke is kind of a one-trick pony because he just talks about himself having a little dick, but it's funny. I can't believe that one joke, 8 episodes, he's been able to keep it going with that one joke.
It seems like I'll need a second joke for season 2, but that guy's been around for a few years already, at least.
Yeah. I actually first saw him when my son was watching that Nick Cannon Wild 'N Out show. I saw him on that. That was the first time I saw him, and it was because the Jufro does stick out.
So yeah, he's taken that one joke to new lengths, so to speak.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
All right, well, Frank G recommends Red Dwarf, The Promised Land. Coming back after a 3-year break, the boys from the Dwarf are looking a bit older, but their timing is sharp as ever. Instead of the usual 6 episodes, they put together a feature-length story this time. So stretching a Red Dwarf plot out to 90 minutes might seem like a bad idea, but this movie is exploring something rarely seen on the show, other members of the cat race. Specifically, a ruthless group of feral cats led by the evil Rodon, who vows to eliminate any cat that doesn't worship at his feet. A group of non-believers manages to escape in an attempt to find their god, who happens to be Lister. Hilarity ensues in the usual Red Dwarf fashion. Things get bad, then they get more bad, then they get even worse, etc. By the end of the show, they've got all the pieces in place to return again with either another full-length story or a full-on series. As usual, Chris Berry is doing the heavy lifting here, playing all sorts of assorted rimmers, including a new upgrade which allows him to, well, that would be a huge spoiler. Everyone is up to the task, though. Other than the wear and tear on their faces and the fact that Crichton seems to be inside a much larger shell these days, they're still the same lovable crew of total smegheads they've been since the late 80s. Something really cool happens near the end, actually, but again, huge spoiler. If you like Red Dwarf, check it out. If you're not familiar with Red Dwarf, start at the beginning and check it out. 5 out of 5 whatevers. 252s? What do we give here? Ralphie D's?
You give it either 2, I like to give them 2 52s if it's good, or you get no 52. You get no 52.
All right, 252.
No 52s for you. 2 52s if it's good. 152 if I was like, But I guess we really haven't determined our actual rating system. Red Dwarf, I'm actually not familiar with, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I'm glad that you redid your copy because all I got was the very first part and then the last part. So when I saw all the rest of that stuff, I was like, oh my God, he would have been pissed.
No, I saw
it was like, I missed a few.
The thing that looked weird in the one copy that you said didn't work, I saw that. So, oh yeah, that does look very strange. But
yeah, I was like, you would have been pissed.
I would have pasted mine in on my end. I would have caught that before we went to air. Unlike those other scrubs that usually sit on either side.
I wasn't going to speak ill of the people who aren't here, but yes, there's somebody here who gets the same information that everybody gets in the beginning, and still he doesn't read it until it's showtime. But anyway, I'm Coolwater Kurt. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm Frank G, and that's news to me.
We'd like to hear what we would definitely like to hear what you think. Leave us a comment down below and let your opinion be heard.
And not just that bot that always tells us everything is great every week. If you like this video, please check out other videos on our channel like 252 and Nerdstalgia, which is now in 4K, though I haven't uploaded that episode yet.
I did not know that. That's news to me.
It's news to us, yes.
And with that, sometimes you just have to roll the hard 6. And this is 252 Pop Fiction, where you hear it first.
Or soon. One of these things.
Or whenever, because of the delay.
Adonis, pull yourself together.